In 2016, Kara Walker created the largest art sculpture made of sugar. It measured 75 feet long and 35 feet tall and weighs 60 tons. That's enough sugar for nearly 3 million Mars bars. But why did she do this? When you think of the word sugar, you probably think of candy, cake, or maybe your favorite fizzy drink. But where does it all come from? Most people might think of sugar factories or maybe even sugarcane, but Kara Walker wants us to focus on where it all started, where the root of this sugar industry began.
I had to learn more about sugar in the process of trying to understand this building. Sugar comes from sugar cane. Sugar cane is grown in tropical climates. Sugar cane is and has been harvested by slaves, underpaid workers, and children possibly. It's a fascinating and very long history.
And this starts in the 18th century with the transatlantic slave trade. Today it's not easy to link the two, but Kara Walker not only wanted to remind us of where it came from, but to build a monument to credit the workers, or artisans as she calls them, for their work. When you look at the history books, there's often so many mentions of the plantation owners, but how many slaves can you name? Sugar is more important than you think. It's in all of our food. It's in our bread, in our juices, in our snacks, especially if you live in the West. I'm not only going to cover why Kara Walker made this, but what led to her doing this. Walker was born in California in 1969 to her mother Gwendolyn, who was an admin assistant, and her father Larry, who was a painter. Some of her earliest memories she remembers sitting on her dad's lap while he was in his art studio. When she was 13, she moved to Georgia, which she described as a culture shock. Georgia was mostly white, and it was also home to Stone Mountain, where the Ku Klux Klan was born. It's also the same mountain where Martin Luther King had his I Had a Dream speech. She also remembers that she was the odd one out in school. Later, she studied at the Atlanta College of Art. After that, she earned her master's from RISD, which was home to a few other well-known faces, such as Glenn Ligon, Brian Chesky from Airbnb, and James Franco. Before sculptures, she was actually known for her drawings and her silhouettes, which were normally black figures against a white wall. These explored the themes such as race, gender, and slavery. A non-profit art organization known as Creative Time had been trying to get Kara Walker to do some public art for some time. They had learned that the Domino Sugar Factory was about to be demolished and turned into some housing, like every other gentrified city. But what was interesting about this factory was in the 1870s, half of all US sugar was produced within this one factory. Walker was drawn to the project because of the factory's history and the Domino's links to slavery. And so in 2013, Kara Walker began working on the subtlety of a marvelous sugar baby. Initially, they thought it would be impossible. The factory was in bad shape and it was a very ambitious project. It was also Kara Walker's first time creating sculpture. But despite all this, as I'm sure you can guess from the title of this video, Kara Walker and her team got to work. So Kara Walker and a team of engineers started carving blocks of polystyrene in line with her designs. And we then covered the designs with the 60 tons of melted sugar. Walker also wanted to fill the space with some additional figures. And what she created were 4 sculptures of 4 black boys carrying sugar. These were enlarged versions of figurines which were popular in China at the time. And in 2014, Kara Walker's most ambitious project was ready. A marvelous sugar baby or a subtlety. Walker's homage to the slave laborers, or artisans as she calls them, was complete. So let's start with the name, a subtlety. It's the same name for the sugar sculptures which were created for the Middle Eastern sultans or the English nobility hundreds of years ago. And it was a display of wealth and power to their dinner guests. And I think this is what Kara Walker was trying to get across to us as the viewer. She was trying to really communicate that wealth and power, or borrow that wealth and power for the artisans that she wanted to pay homage for. From the front, we can see the head of a woman who is a mammy figure, an old racist American stereotype who was normally hired to support white families. The character is often related to minstrel shows, and you may have seen it in Tom and Jerry, or Aunt Jemima, or that weird film Gone with the Wind. And it was a stereotype created in particular to suggest that black women were actually happy being slaves.
Keep your shawl on your shoulders. I ain't even for you to get all freckled after the buttermilk I done put on your list.
The character often cared for her white family more so than her own children. And she was made to be severely overweight and dark to make the white woman feel safe. Because how could any upstanding white man be attracted to her? The head is attached to the body, which is a cross between a sphinx and a very curvy woman. We've seen sphinxes in Greek and Egyptian mythology, often being portrayed as stern and ferocious, and they are normally found in tombs and religious temples. So we could kind of get to the fact that maybe this factory was some kind of temple for the artisans as well. The marvelous sugar baby also has a very stern look on her face to mirror packaging from molasses that Kara Walker found while she was designing this. However, from behind we get a very different reaction. I can't show it on screen, but her lady parts are exposed for all to see. And it does make you question the strength that you were immediately presented with when you were looking at the statue from the front. Her private parts and breasts being on display really speak to how black women's body were exploited during the slave trade. They would have been used to breastfeed younger slaves, which would have created the next generation of slaves, all while being sexually exploited by their slave owners. And in the end, I think Kara Walker achieved what she set out to. She paid homage to those artisans who were the real workers during the slave trade. Thousands of people all over America visited the exhibition. However, not everyone would have picked up on the hidden symbolism. But you could say that does mirror the sphinxes in Egypt as well. She even predicted some people would act as you would expect them to act when you see a vagina on display at an art museum. And today it's one of her most notable works, and she even got a visit from a particular famous duo. It's a shame the sculpture did eventually have to come down to make way for some housing, but the next time you consume some sweets or some candy, maybe you'll give a thought to where it all began. And if you made it this far into this video, thank you so much for watching. Please hit subscribe. I'll be uploading more videos on art history, and in the comments let me know what you want to see.